So my name is Morley Boyd. I'm a 12th generation Westporter. My family came here in 1650 from the Hartford colony, but like so many people who came down here, they were part of the Puritan migration that came here from England to the Massachusetts colony and became dissatisfied with the pace of Anglican reform and got permission to come down here, and so that's what they did and settled what is now Westport. That's my relationship.
I love it.
Well, the historic significance of Westport is an interesting question because there's lots of different ways to answer it, but I think the most significant aspect of Westport is its relationship to the Revolutionary War. In 1777, the British occupied New York. They controlled the seas. They occupied Long Island, and we're right on the coast. And it's not that hard to row across from one side of Long Island to this. So we were in a lot of danger, and trouble was expected. Fairfield, which was where we are now, only it's Westport now, was actively attacking British interests. There was a lot going on. And in the spring of 1777, British command decided, because they were desperate for food, just as we were, desperate for food, desperate for supplies. Much of their housing had been lost under suspicious circumstances in New York City. Whole housing units had burned to the ground. Arson was suspected. It was never proved. But many of their forces were sleeping outside. They were sleeping in stables. They were sleeping in sheds. So the supplies that they had asked for hadn't shown up. So they started raiding ours. They set in place a plan to come here and attack our supplies, which were then in Danbury. And unfortunately, all the other towns down the way, Greenwich, Stamford, Darien, Norwalk, in anticipation of this sort of thing, had developed defenses. And the British didn't have complete intelligence on where they could land and get to Danbury. And so they're coming up the coast trying to figure out where can we land where we're not going to get shot at. And they get a little too close to Darien. Darien opens up on them, starts shooting at them. They planned to go to Norwalk. They thought this would be the place to land. Well, it turns out that Norwalk had a fort with huge cannons. So that, and so they landed here in Westport because it was undefended. Some of the fallout from the raid on Danbury is important to consider, and that's why your question about what's significant about Westport, what happened here was not so much a tactical thing. The British did land, they marched inland, they went to Danbury, they destroyed the supplies up there. They intended to grab them, but they couldn't get enough carts and things, so in a panic, they just destroyed them all. Said, the heck with it, we're out of here. But the interesting aspect is, and why it's significant, why Westport is significant, is what happened on their way back. By that point, the Patriots had figured out what's going on, and one of the pivotal figures of the Revolutionary War, Benedict Arnold, just happened to be staying with his sister in New Haven. He'd lost his wife in 1775. This is now 1777, April. He's in debt. He's thinking about quitting the army. He feels underappreciated. People that were of his similar rank have been promoted above him. And this thing happens with this raid. 1,850 armed soldiers are marching towards Danbury, so he gets involved. And the British find out that he's involved. And he's like their worst enemy. And they know it. They've seen what he's done. He captured Fort Ticonderoga. He was a brilliant campaign on Lake Champlain. death march from Boston to Quebec, which ultimately wasn't successful, but it really impressed the British that this was a person that you did not want to have on the other side. And they found out that he was headed their way while they were in Danbury, and they're thinking, how are we going to get back to Campo Beach with this guy in between us? And it really concentrated their minds. And Benedict Arnold fought very bravely in Ridgefield, had his horse shot out from underneath him, and then he staged another. He came back to Westport and waited for them because he knew there was only one bridge across the Saugatuck River, and most people didn't know how to swim. Water was death. You know, you bathed once a year. Really, once a year. I mean, the expression "don't throw out the baby with the bathwater" was a literal historic expression. I mean, once a year you bathe, so water was something to be regarded as fearful. So he knew the only way the British could get back to their ships was this one bridge, and it's right here in Westport. And he waited for them, and he had upwards of 1,000 guys plus a cannon, and he was waiting for them. And the British saw him, and they were exhausted. Guys were fainting and falling down on the ground. They were so tired, the British. They were out of ammunition, and here's their worst nightmare waiting for them with 1,000 guys and a cannon at the bridge. And they had loyalist sympathizers with them who said, well, there's this other way we could go. It's got water. And it was via a fording place, now referred to by Ford Road. That's where they went to try to get around. They didn't want to even touch Benedict Arnold anymore. They'd had enough of that. And they were exhausted, and as I said, they were out of ammunition. And so they got around him, but then, sort of like echoes of Concord and Lexington, they were chased all the way to Campo Beach, sent up a hill, and then everybody set up with cannons and started shooting at them, and they're out of ammunition. And so, the whole thing of this raid, strategically, it wasn't anything. So our supplies were destroyed. Yeah, that was bad. But it was a headache for supply managers every day, the Revolutionary War. Shortages of this, shortages of that. It didn't change anything. What's important about it, and getting back to your original question of the historic significance, and it's not really talked about, but what happened was Benedict Arnold, because of what happened in Westport, his conduct in Westport, the fighting that occurred, I mean, the British eventually made it back to their ships, but they had to make it back without any reinforcements. There's this fallacy that, oh, they had reinforcements waiting for them at Campo Beach. Not true. They had to get themselves back. So it was a tough go. They very nearly lost it. And Benedict Arnold was promoted, finally. He was promoted to Major General, and he was given a replacement horse for the one that he lost. And even then, he was still disappointed. And Washington wrote him a series of letters, praising him. And so by October of 1777, he goes on to basically win the day at Saratoga, the battles of Saratoga. Even though he didn't get a lot of credit for it, he was the man. I mean, if he had died at Saratoga, we'd have a national holiday like President's Day for Benedict Arnold. I mean, granted, things changed after that, but my point is that because of what happened here, it influenced events that happened after. Benedict Arnold was promoted, felt better, didn't quit, went on to win the day. Saratoga was the pivotal battle of the Revolution because the French were watching. The French had been thinking about getting involved. They'd been thinking about getting involved when the Danbury raid occurred, and it was very embarrassing what happened. The British show up and march right up to Danbury, burn their stuff, and leave. And Washington had to explain all this. Benjamin Franklin had to explain all this. How did this happen? You guys really are up for this? But Benedict Arnold saved the day at Saratoga. The French got involved, and the war turned, and the next thing you know, we're winning it. So it's interesting how little things add up to a big thing. So that's how I choose to think about the significance of this place in relationship to the Revolutionary War. I mean, the way it really started was the way Westport started, and your reference to onion farming, I mean, they're definitely related, because what happened was it started as an ecclesiastical society, Puritan ecclesiastical society. And because of the quality of the soil here, it lent itself to agrarian use. That's what started it all. But it wasn't until the 1840s that the onions got started, and that lasted until about the end of the century, when this cutworm showed up and wiped out everything on the East Coast. But a lot of people got rich in the meantime, growing onions. Lots of people got rich. And so Westport, what happened with Westport is it was this agrarian community, but we also had the advantage of this river that was navigable. And so the shipping trade rose in conjunction with it. So the onions that you were asking about were shipped all over the place. Obviously they played a role in the Civil War because they fight scurvy and so forth. So it was great while it lasted. People see something and they want to be a part of it.
Right.
And so Westport became a huge shipping center because of the agriculture. One fed the other. I think the seeds of it started actually with the arrival of the railroad in 1848. And suddenly, which was highly controversial, Westport fought it tooth and nail. The shipping interests here did not want that. You know, it was like the taxi guys in Uber. That's when it started, because then you have a link to New York. And by the early 20th century, artists were beginning to discover affordable places out here, and a lot of them lived in some of the barns and so forth, or they would come out here to escape the heat. It also became a popular summer resort for those who could afford it. So it was beginning to transition. Those things happened in tandem, becoming a wealthy summer enclave, and also being a place for, firstly, illustrators, a lot of illustrators. I live on a street in downtown Westport where many of the houses were inhabited by people that did work for Saturday Evening Post, McCall's Magazine, things that paid the bills. And so that's how that got started. As for Zelda and F. Scott Fitzgerald, I don't know exactly why they rented in Westport. I think it was like 5 months or something.
Yeah, it was like their honeymoon or something.
Yeah. But they certainly made an impact, and I see the argument that the inspiration for The Great Gatsby had to do with I think it was Frederick Lewis, who owned the mansion next door, which is now Longshore. It certainly seems credible.
That's what it was. That is now Longshore. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that was his estate. It was like 75 acres. Yeah, he was a reclusive, semi-reclusive man, but he had great parties. My great uncle married his daughter, and I heard the stories about the parties there with Houdini and the whole thing, and elephants and camels and all the things that went on there. And I also heard the stories about what went on with Zelda and F. Scott Fitzgerald's house. I think she passed out once on the railroad bridge that goes from Ferry Lane East to Ferry Lane West.
Oh, wow.
I think I read that.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting time, and of course there was a whole satellite of people around them that traveled in that circle. And I wonder sometimes myself, because so many new people have come here, and how does we'll call it DNA, get maintained? How does that happen? Does it happen? Does it change over time? Well, of course it changes. Westport was once known as sort of like this hayseed place. Unless you lived in if you lived in Bridgeport, you looked down on the people in Westport, and obviously things changed. But My father used to say that if a UFO landed in the yard of a Westport house, the occupants would come out and introduce themselves. And it was sort of speaking to this urbane quality that this place seems to have. And I found that wherever I travel in the world, if I'm in an airport, I can always pick out the person from Westport. And I don't know why. Ditto for being in a movie theater someplace. I can always tell the people from Westport. I don't know what it is, so I can't honestly answer your question, but somehow or other, this place has managed, even though it's clearly evolved tremendously over time, from this Puritan ecclesiastical society to, what we have now, it has maintained this character somehow or other. And I'm not sure how it is, given the enormous turnover, given the enormous change in demographic, etc. It's a bit of a mystery to me. It's sort of a special sauce. I think I'd have to say it must revolve around the subject of transportation. I mean, when Westport got started, it was originally a parish, and so everybody had moved out here, but church attendance was compulsory. And so they had to go back to the center of Fairfield for service, and in those days, Sunday service was all day. I mean, it was a commitment. And for some people, that was quite a trip, and so basically the commute was killing them. And so they finally were able to establish their own church, or meeting house as it's properly called here. But so that involved the hardship of travel. The way the town was laid out, and this is interesting, so you can see to this day, it was laid out in long strips or long lots. And the roads ran due north, so Campo Road, Sturgis Highway, all those roads that run like that. There's 5 of them. Those are all 11 o'clock roads, as they call them, because at 11 o'clock in the afternoon, in the morning, the shadow is supposed to be showing directly north. So they sliced these things up so that people could inhabit these lands and develop them. And that's all still visible to this day. Those roads that we travel on every day, there's a reason why they're that way. And Cross Highway goes across them all. But there was all kinds of challenges through the years. The river, for instance, was a critical transportation issue. So much so that Westport finally got the Secretary of War to come here and say, look, this river's silting in. Look at all these businesses. We need help. And he came, and they took a tour of the whole thing. They ended up dredging the river. It was always a problem. It's a problem to this day. The silting is a massive problem, but the railroad was a huge controversy, as we discussed earlier, and that was fought as long as it could. The best that Westport could do in the end is say, well, can you at least build us a footbridge when you build the bridge across the Saugatuck River? And they did, and it's still there. I think we're the only ones who have something like that. And you would think in the post 9/11 era that there's a footbridge where you walk across, where the Acela is just zooming by you, blowing your hat off. You think, how does this exist? Even the deer use the bridge to go across. It's crazy if you've ever seen the deer go across the Saugatuck Bridge.
Actually.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
But transportation has always been an issue. In the 19th century, people were complaining about not enough places to tie up their horses on Main Street. Today, there's not enough places to park your car. But then there's a whole other group that says we should close down the streets for pedestrian access. And now what's happening is so many people are saying, well, we really need to have sidewalks because we have so many cars. And it should be more bike-friendly and accessible on foot. So it continues. The 95 came through here, hugely disruptive. The Merit came through, less of an impact. But before that, everything between Boston and New York traveled on that road right there. And the traffic jams were epic.
When was that?
Well, so the Merit went in like, I want to say 35.
Okay.
But that's cars only. but then 95 was like 1958, somewhere around there. But this was the only way. All tractor trailers, everything on that road. So it was kind of honky-tonk, and you know, one accident and you can just imagine. Well, that's a tough one. I guess just wearing a history hat, I would say what's nice is it's still possible to trace the origins of this place in the land. We talked about the roads that were laid out, the long lots, they're still there. We can visit important battle sites, they're still there. People are still finding cannonballs, people are still finding these things. So there's echoes of the history that's still here that are discernible in everyday things. I mean, historic buildings are really kind of like the vessel that holds that history, and there's a lot of them still here. So you can see that in the landscape and in the built environment. So that's important. I mean, for instance, just take, say, for instance, the Cabrera Bridge. It's now the oldest operable swing bridge in North America. It's held on for so long, it's the only one. And yet there it is, and you can cross it every day, lit up during the holidays. It's poetic.
Yeah, it's very sweet.
So I think in answer to your question, for me, is just being able to trace the evolution of our community on the land by the things that are here that have stayed. Even though so much has changed, you can still trace it. What's interesting about this town is there's all these organizations that you don't know about, but they've been here. Since 1975, the Westport Astronomical Society, which is the most active one in the state of Connecticut, and is open to the public, I think every Wednesday, but I'm not totally sure about that. Pretty amazing. And I got contacted by I think it's the president of that organization, and they're up on Bayberry Lane. The reason I got contacted was because the site that the Astronomical Society inhibits, this is just like inside Westport stuff that a lot of people don't know about, but is really kind of cool. And they don't really, it's a great organization, but you know, they don't toot their own horn that much. And I mean, somebody should toot it for them, I suppose. I mean, I don't have any dog in the fight or anything. I'm just saying, it was on my mind because I got this email. Hey, do you have the report that you guys did on this tower that they're in, where they have the telescope? Well, this tower is part of this missile defense site that was in Westport from 1956 to 1963. We had the world's first missile-based anti-aircraft system right here in Westport. And it was, oh yeah, and it was part of a ring around Bridgeport. So there's two radar towers which are still there. You can see them to this day. The place was decommissioned, I think, in 1963. This is how the Astronomical Society came to be at this site, which the Army wanted this because it was a high site, and the way this missile program worked was it had these radars that one would track. The fear was that incoming Soviet bombers were flying so high and so fast that traditional anti-aircraft couldn't bring them down. They needed missiles. So they developed this program, Bell Labs did it. And I think there was like something like 270 sites across America. There's a restored one in San Francisco. And so the one that was here was highly controversial. A lot of people really didn't dig it. They didn't like having the military here.
Okay.
I think there was even a military depot on the other side of this house. There's a Quonset hut down over there for years. It just got taken down not that long ago. And because this was the main drag between, and so all the military supplies were being dropped off there, then being carted up to Bayberry Lane. The missiles were actually on North Avenue, where the school is now. But where this Astronomical Society, where this conversation got started, is now located. This is where the radar site was, or integrated fire control area. And it's kind of an amazing thing. It never actually was used, of course, but it was one of those Cold War fixtures, and Westport happened to host one of these sites. And so you can climb up the repurposed one of the repurposed radar towers to the telescope at the top and look at the stars, but that wasn't its original purpose. A writer named Max Schulman wrote a book called Rally Around the Flag Boys, and it turned into a movie, and it starred Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward and Joan Collins. And it was kind of a screwball comedy, but it was based on this fictional New England town that got one of these missile installations, and Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward stayed in Westport. That's how they came here. That's how they came here, because of the Nike missile site and then the Rally Along the Flag Boys. That's how it happened. So it's just kind of interesting. And when the site was turned over to the town in, I think, '63, Paul Newman was part of the dedication ceremony. So then he became very involved in town affairs and, of course, the Historical Society.